Hello and welcome to the Brand Scoop Live. I'm Heather. I am the owner and creative behind Aura Brand Studio. If you're new here, I help creative business owners create awesomely authentic digital identities with their branding, websites, and marketing funnels. And I am here with my good friend, Carrie, and she can take it away on letting you all know what she does.
Hey y'all, I'm Carrie Peterson. I embrace all things social. So I love to help small businesses tell their stories and do everything on social media, and being able to connect with their audiences that way through their products and services. So I want to, now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of running the race, right?
Yes.
But we want to start off with a little announcement. This is bonus. This is like frosting material. Bonus on your cupcake today.
Yes.
We
Yes.
are 124 days away from Christmas and 98 days away from Black Friday. Lean in. If you don't have a plan for those things, now's the time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like now's the time. And I know you feel like 100 days, that's a long time. It's not.
It's
It
not.
is a blink. If you think of we're going to run a sale and then you back off and we want to run an ad and then you back up from there and we want to have these products or services ready and then you want to back up to have it ready for your website, it was probably like 4 days ago is where you would end up in the timeline.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes sometimes people forget about the runway that is really necessary and needed to actually lead up to the big promotion itself, to get all of the pieces in place, make sure your team, if you have one, is all together. And if you don't have a team, to make sure that you have the bandwidth to execute all of these things chunked out, right? And, depending on the size of your business and where you are right now, realistically, having a team or not having a team can sometimes make that timeline shrink or grow depending on the complexity of the team and the things and all of that, right?
That's right.
So yes, that is a helpful reminder. And keep in mind too, y'all, like holidays and people having some time to like take a breath and recollect themselves, you probably want to keep that in the back of your mind too. So instead of feeling like you're running around like a crazy person over the holidays, like now is absolutely the time, if you haven't started doing so already, to make sure that you are getting your thoughts together and action plan in place to execute any sort of holiday promotions, Black Friday promotions. And we bring this up, right, because we work in a space where a lot of people do run those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep.
So Labor Day, work Labor Day so you can be off Black Friday. But like now's the time. Now's the time. So, okay, let's talk about the relay race of marketing. That's almost tricky to say. Almost.
Yeah. And I think, Carrie and I came up with this anecdote or idea because we have kind of complementary services and skills. And we talk all the time about how, I can put together a beautiful sales page or sales funnel for someone or a website for someone. But if the mechanisms are not in place to actually continually communicate said website, said sales offer, a freebie, anything that you are currently kind of working on in your business, if those mechanisms are not in place, it's a little bit like you have a relay race and I have that initial baton and the initial baton has nowhere for that to go and like get to the finish line. So you need to have consistency in your communication plan and perseverance when it comes to talking about your offers, right? Because, yeah, I think we say all the time, this is not a field of dreams, build it, they will come situation.
Right. And like,
Yeah,
dang, because wouldn't that be awesome?
that would be lovely, but
But
that
it's
is
just
not
not.
how this works.
Yeah. I always go back to McDonald's. McDonald's spends millions of dollars, probably billions at this stage a
Probably.
year in
Yeah.
marketing money. And who doesn't know what McDonald's is?
Yeah.
And yet they still put their quarter pounder with cheese in front of your face because they want you to remember. We know it. It's been decades, but they know the value and the importance of it. And so how much more do we need to work together to make sure that your product and service that everybody doesn't know but maybe would like to know, it's in front of them and it's getting there. So yeah, it's just a constant. Nothing is ever evergreen. Nothing is ever just, you just set it up and then take a vacay. It's just not how it works. Yeah.
Right. And I think another thing to keep in mind too, especially if you are kind of like in early stages, but I think it's something that remains constant no matter what level your business is the consistent activity of audience building and bringing new people into your audience. And that is why if you create a lead magnet or something like that, you might be super jazzed about it, get all of this communication out about it initially, and then I see it all the time where it just falls off the radar. Well, you might have new people that have come into your audience since you first created that thing. And so those new people don't know about the thing. So there is always an opportunity to continue communicating things to your audience. I will try to find it after this, but I know I read recently in a marketing book somewhere too. It on average, it takes people at least 12 times of seeing something before they are going to buy it. So that's the other reason why marketing is a relay race, because if you only put it out in one thing one time, you are leaving a ton of money on the table. Mm-hmm. You have to keep taking that thing and putting it out in different channels, in different ways, in different structures. And I think, Carrie, you can kind of talk to this a little bit more from a social media standpoint, but in email marketing standpoint. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we see clients feel like they don't have anything to talk about consistently. And the reality is that they do. They've just kind of let a baton drop, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah. So pick it up.
Yeah.
Pick up the baton. It's never too late. There's no Olympic committee watching you run this, right? So pick it up and go, okay, you know what? I do have that lead magnet. I do have this product that did really well a year ago. Let me push it back out there. Mm-hmm. Let me push people towards something I maybe offered a year and a half ago. Maybe it went gangbusters. Maybe it didn't do as well as you anticipated it doing, but it's a new day. And you don't know who it's going to land on today that might go, yes, I love this. And it takes on a brand new life. So pick up that baton, pick up some missing pieces, things that you were really jazzed about. It's not too late to do that. And then put new feet to it, put it back in the rhythm. I do everything digital, but I love pen and paper. I always make notes, but that's how I plan out clients' months is I look at that calendar and I'm like, okay, we want to make sure we're hitting their current lead magnets here, here, and here. We want to make sure that we're doing their new workshop here, right? And so then you start, and it just becomes consistent, and it becomes something that like automatic, like I have to put this out, because you're always going to be building, and you want all of those new people to see all of your pieces and parts and the offerings that you have.
Yeah, I think where I was going with that too was like, if you created an offer and maybe you talked about it in social posts, is there a way to then take, like, you could also, if you haven't done it, create a blog, and then you can also take 3 pieces out of that blog and create 3 social posts with it, right? Like, that's the kind of like baton passing I think that we're trying to convey is important, is not only consistently talking about it and not just letting it kind of like fizzle and fall off of the radar, but that realistically, when you are creating a specific offer, whether it's free or paid, you have a lot of opportunity to talk about that offer in different ways through different channels that you have.
So have the thing, right? Then create a blog about it. And like you said, and then send that link for that blog out in an email. Dig into it a little, like it just, right. You're exactly right. Like you just have to keep looking at it, and it's not recreating all new information.
Right.
It's just massaging it and putting it out in different streams. So by the time maybe they've seen a social post, maybe they were involved in the whatever, the workshop or the new product or what have you, they've received an email, they've looked at the blog, you've driven them to the website, then they start to go, oh yeah, I remember. And because you don't know when you're going to hit somebody at any given moment to know what that's going to look like. And so spread it out, keep pulling those pieces of information in and hitting them at different points of the day and different points of where they are, whether they're on their phone looking at email, at their desktop, on social, on mobile or desktop, and then you're going to connect with them in the best way for them, and that's the gold.
Yeah, right. Because that's the other thing about this that I think we really want to drive home is you might be, and we talk about this all the time too, like you might be sick of hearing yourself talking about it, but it might be the first time, it might not even be necessarily the first time that they've seen it or heard it from you, but it could very well be the first time that it actually really came across to them, that they really put some thought into it, that they really paid attention. And not everyone is going to see everything. So like there are obviously like ebbs and flows to this as far as like the amount that you are talking about any given thing at a time, right? There are going to be launches that you do where you are talking about one specific thing over and over and over again. And then you're going to like peter back from it. But the other thing that I think I kind of like think about this whole relay race of marketing materials anecdote from the perspective of not only consistency, but all of the organic communication that you are doing in the day-to-day of your business should be leading into some sort of paid offer that you are hoping people will take you up on. Like your organic communication should be strategic and should be kind of like, I always talk about the customer journey, right? I didn't make that up. That's like a common marketing thing. But basically, it's essentially understanding that different people are going to be at different points in the cycle of getting to know you and determining whether they're just here for the free stuff, whether they're going to take you up on a paid offer. And so all of that organic communication that's constantly happening and running this race with each other should eventually be handing the baton off to the paid offer that is going to get to the finish line, right? So I think that's another thing to keep in mind here is there's a lot of different ways that you can be marketing your thing, and sometimes it feels overwhelming. But if you kind of let one thing stumble and fall, it's probably going to have an impact on the other things. And I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about any advice that you can give on like how to manage that and not feel super overwhelmed if you are maybe like a solopreneur that's trying to do a lot with either yourself or you only have like a really small team?
Mm-hmm. Like about picking it back up and like,
no, I mean like how to stay consistent and communicate things effectively across channels without having that urge to just kind of like fall off of certain things, right? Like I think that there's a balance to be struck, because I think sometimes on the flip side of the coin, we see sometimes people are trying to split their attention across too many things.
Oh yeah.
Like they're trying to do email marketing, and they're trying to really grow their YouTube channel, and they're trying to post consistently to Facebook. Oh, also, I think I maybe want to try doing TikTok. Like,
Right.
do you want to talk do you have any tips or advice on that?
Yeah, I think hone in, focus down, get something really consistent and running, right? So start off with, if your Facebook and Instagram are consistent and intentional and working for you, then you can add another runner in your relay, right? Yeah. Then you can add YouTube, or then you can add TikTok. If you think, well, everybody talks about TikTok, so I'm just going to go on there and start talking. Well, that's really tricky, and that really and that will cause you more stress, and then you're going to drop other batons in your path. It's not, and it may not be where your people are anyway. So really think about, I'm going to focus in on this, make this structured, intentional, and well planned out, and then start adding. So and I think it goes, and I think being intentional and structured, even in like email cycles, an email can be totally overwhelming for the reader. Hey, I have this new thing, and I have this new thing, and you ought to try this, and don't forget about this, and make sure you look at this, and what about this thing? And it's too many, and you get done and you're like, I don't know, delete.
Yeah.
I love a real purposeful, intentional one call to action. Hey, I have this brand new pen. You're going to love the ink. It writes super clean. It has a cap that you won't lose. This is the pen that you won't want to share with anyone else. Check out my new pen.
Right.
Full stop. Right. And so there are opportunities for like newsletter kind of things that you can kind of open some doors. But when you wanted really targeted information to go out and you want to see a return on that, be crystal clear. That person running, you are telling them, I am training you that this is what you need to know. I am handing you the baton. I'm pushing you into this, into the starting blocks. This is where you're going to finish by clicking this button and engaging in that product or service. It's super clear.
Yeah. And I think it's in the grand scheme, I think it is having a balance of those things, right? But I think that's why we're trying to say, like, you don't always have to create a new thing either. Like, I think sometimes people try to split attention across communicating, I think sometimes business owners split their attention by communicating across too many areas all at once. And it's not that you can't have all of these different channels. It's just you're not going to be able to effectively grow and really have a very clear strategy for all of these different platforms kind of all at once is what we're saying.
Yeah.
And then I think we also see this tendency towards splitting audience attention across too many different focuses at once. And it's a little bit of a dance and an art, right? Because obviously different people in your audience are going to be at different levels or different places in their customer journey. So you do need to have a mix, right? Because you might have the person who has been in your audience forever, who has bought everything from you, right? They are like your ride or die. And so you still want to have valuable content for them so that they stick around and still enjoy the things that you're putting out. But you also need to be talking to and nurturing the new person that is here. And like we said, kind of like telling them about the lead magnet that maybe they don't know about. So it is kind of but I think to me being who I am, I think this is why understanding and being able to target your messaging to your audience, and I think that that's more heavily prevalent in email marketing. That's where that can be really, really important, right? Because you kind of have additional information, or you should have additional information about your audience in regard to like what they have interacted with from you, what the right next step might be for them. And so you can kind of leverage your tools to make sure that you are communicating messages to the right person at the right time.
You might think of it in thirds, right? A third of your audience are newbies. A third of them they've made a purchase, they know you, they've watched a live, they've had some sort of investment. And then you've got your ride or dies. So when you're looking at the next month, the next quarter, the next whatever, right, season of arc that you're gonna, for like a workshop or a service or a new product or whatever, kind of think about, okay, I'm going to put out information on social, on email, and I want to make sure I communicate with each third of my audience. And then you can start putting those pieces in. And I think sometimes that just helps kind of circle the wagons a little bit. It's like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I can start, now your puzzle pieces kind of start forming lines and corners, and it kind of makes it a little easier to get it mapped out well. And it'll be easier for you to push out the information, and it'll be easier for them to absorb it.
Yep. And I think that's a good segue to kind of like starting at the beginning, right? So when you are working to plan that arc or this relay race that the things are going to be running, what the heck are they running towards?
Where's the finish?
What is the finish line? What does that look like? And it can't be all the things. It can't be everything, all of the things all at once. You need to have one or maybe two really clearly defined goals, right, for this particular race. And everything should be kind of like leading, passing their little batons to each other down to that final point. And then when you get to that final point, and that doesn't mean that the offer is going away or like it's dead after that. It doesn't run the race and then
we're done.
Like, it's just getting to the finish line is truly getting to whatever that goalpost is, and then taking a look at what was achieved. Did you hit the goal? Do you want to keep that goal for this next arc? Do you want to adjust things? Do you want to reassess? Right. But like understanding where you are running to is really important. And that seems so common sense. And yet it's not always part of the thought process.
We see it all the time. All the time.
Yeah. Or it's very nebulous. Very.
See, this is what I love about Heather and I, because she says things like nebulous, and I would have said loosey-goosey. So see, this is where we partner well, is because whether you are a nebulous viewer or a loosey-goosey viewer, we got you.
Yeah.
Nebulous
goose.
That's right. That's right. Right. Like what is the goal? And the goal, where are we running to? Where are we going? What do we want ultimately this to bring to us? Is the finish line for this arc ultimately a starting line for the next thing? And how does that impact? Right?
Yeah.
So being able to really, I know you sit there and because we're small business owners too, we get it, right? Mm-hmm. I had this conversation this week. I have to do IT. I have to do the worker bee. I have to do bookkeeping. I have to be a CPA. We all have all of these hats that we wear as small business owners. And so if you're sitting there right now going, y'all, I barely have time to do what I'm doing. Now you're telling me that it doesn't have to take days and weeks. You don't need a retreat to get away and plan this out.
Right.
Blocking out an hour or two a month can make a huge impact in what it is that you do and how you're going to move forward and what your goal line is and how you're going to do those things. And you'll never regret taking that time, because it's always going to net something and help on those days that you sit there and think, I don't know what to post today, or I'm tired, or I don't have a lot to offer today. We all get there, and we can't phone it in like you can working at mom and pop, whatever. Right. So like on those days, you already have created some material and a plan back when you really were intentional about taking that time. And that's just going to push that baton even when you're crawling to pass it off.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what a good analogy is for that.
It's training time. You have to have time in the gym.
Yeah. But I mean, like when you're like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like, those like little, those little gel energy packs.
Oh yeah. Like the Gatorade Chewies. Mm-hmm.
Right. The training time is giving you the stamina, but if you roll your ankle and you're really struggling, I think having that plan in place can be that like extra little push to get you through maybe like a time that you're feeling uninspired or you just have other things crop up, right? And I think Carrie is exactly right. She hit it on the head as far as this doesn't have to take a ton of your time as a business owner, like all of the time. It maybe is a couple hours of planning, kind of like at the end of a month leading into a new month. I think that you can have longer strategy planning sessions for the quarter, right? Mm-hmm. That can be beneficial. And the other thing to keep in mind too, is, Carrie and I both offer strategy-based services where we will have a more in-depth conversation with you and try to help kind of like formulate what these plans could look like from either a like marketing funnel kind of standpoint or like a brand and web moving into funnel kind of standpoint on my end. And then obviously Carrie does this from a social media communications kind of planning standpoint. So even if you are at the place in your business that maybe you are not at the point that you can necessarily like keep a team member on to help you execute all of the things all of the time, there are still often opportunities to get another set of eyeballs and another brain on your particular web of chaos
Mm-hmm.
and help you to kind of untangle the strings and give you a path or a recommendation, right?
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of wrap this in a good little bow for them. So how about 3 questions to ask yourself if you're in the middle of this relay race, right?
Yeah.
So like number 1, where is the finish line?
Yes, you're going to start at the beginning or start at the end.
You're going to
You're
start
going to
at the end.
start where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start at the goalpost. So first, you're going to figure out what your like smart goal is, right? And that's, I can't right now think of what the S stands for, but it's measurable, actionable, and R.
I think it's simple, measurable, actionable.
I know time bound is the T.
R.
But
Anyway,
for
Google
sure,
it.
measurable and time bound, I think, are 2 of the most important personally, because sometimes people come up with goals, right? I think we talked about this recently where it's like, oh, for this launch, I want 50 people to sign up. And like the audience is the size of like there's 100 people in the audience. And that from a numbers standpoint, that is not an achievable metric. So you're actually setting yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that to yourself, first of all. Like don't just make up numbers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So measurable. So it has to actually be a measurable goal, and it should be a realistic. Maybe that's what the R is.
Ooh, we're going to say that. Just write it down. No, I think so. I think it has to be.
Meanwhile, I'm trying.
Are you going to Google it?
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant. I think realistic is better.
We're going to change it. Yeah, we're going to change it.
Changing the R to realistic.
I approve. I'll allow it. No, I think that's great. Okay, so number 1, where is the finish line? Number 2, where does the baton need to be handed next?
Yes. So we're taking a look. We're evaluating.
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing, first of all, that we're specifically talking about? Whether it's an offer, whether it's a lead magnet, a new offer, an existing offer that you want to breathe new life into. So what is it? And what format does it currently exist in? Right? Mm-hmm. That's like what we need to assess in this question.
Yep. And number 3, the last one, where is the next changeover?
Yes. So I kind of missed a bit on that second one, right? It's what it is and the format that it's in, like that first thing that you want to hand the baton to. So let's say you have a new lead magnet that you're putting out. I'm just going to go with that, right? Mm-hmm. You have a new free offer because you're working on getting some new people into your audience. So you have the free offer. Let's say it's a guide for something. Okay. You have this guide. You have a page. You have a funnel set up. So you have a page where people can sign up to get the guide. And then you have an email sequence that delivers said guide and nurtures people. Mm-hmm. Those are what you have now. So the first thing that you're going to hand off the baton to is you're probably going to talk about it in your social channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like kind of one of the first things that makes the most sense is I'm going to post about this lead magnet and let people know that it exists. Then you're going to think about, like Carrie just said, okay, who's the next runner in this relay race?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a blog post that you would then still promote again in social.
That's right. Yeah.
In email. You could have a runner that is paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
You could have ads that are pushing people to that lead magnet. You know, depending on what the lead magnet is, you could ask for testimonials from people who have leveraged the material. Because that's the one thing I think sometimes people have a tendency of using lead magnets that are kind of like low effort.
Mm-hmm.
And those probably people are going to download and forget about. Mm-hmm. So that's like a whole other topic for a whole other day.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Side note.
Yeah. We'll write that down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, just being able to really ask yourself those three things and knowing, you know, you can do this. Anybody can, right? You can do this. Yeah. But it's just understanding. I think that's what we run into, and that's what we help try to guide our clients and these strategy sessions and stuff. Okay, let's really look at it, because sometimes I get a ton out of, you know, when Heather and I are bouncing ideas back and forth, and I'll say, hey, hold on, give me your idea about this email. Mm-hmm. Well, I do that all the time. Could I do it? Yes. Is it always nice to have, like Heather said, a fresh set of eyes or a new phrase? Or, you know what, maybe if you just flip that and you'd be like, of course, why not give yourself that opportunity to be able to do that? And you will, by doing those sorts of things, you're removing those stumbling blocks. You're removing the things that could really get in your way. You can plan your route, plan your changeovers, know where you're headed. And it just is not only easier for you, but ultimately easier for your client, your ideal customer, to be able to engage with you. That's ultimately what you want. Is you may have to work a little harder and train a little more, but you want it to be easy for them. And so how can we do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never want people to feel like it's hard to mm-hmm. find the things that they want from you, right? And so that's the other reason why it's really, really helpful to have like this strategic plan in place. And because if you don't know where you're going, your audience probably doesn't know where you're trying to go either. And like, I think sometimes that can feel a little bit overwhelming, because obviously if you feel confused about what you're putting out there, your audience is confused, because they're not paying nearly as much attention as you are to all of these things that you're putting out. Right. So it's not that you can't be communicating different things kind of simultaneously, but they should really be kind of laddering up towards very specific goals.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. You got this. They got this.
Yeah. So you guys, you're good.
You're good.
It's been real.
Go do it. No, it's tricky. And that's why we talk about it a lot. And that's why we knew we had to talk about it here, was because we do understand. We do know it can be exhausting. We do know that it takes time, effort, and energy, but, and maybe that's what you need to hear today. Oh, yes, it does take time, effort, energy. But being able to put some of these pieces in place is going to only benefit you. And that's the win. That's the win.
Yep. All right. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. And if you have any questions, absolutely leave them in the comments and we will definitely get back to you with answers. But yeah, everyone have a wonderful rest of their Friday. And
98 days till Black Friday. 98. Yeah. Run. Hey, thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Carrie.
You're welcome. See y'all.
Bye.